been getting looser, been getting paid. 305 representative, been repping day. I'm a Chico in the game. Let's spit that flame, let's spit that fire. Now let's get off the chain, let's ride. Go, is on fire. We don't need no water, let that mother burn. Go, is on fire. We don't need no water, let that mother burn.
99.9 WEFM. WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Alrighty, so the time right now it is 8:45, and we are back with you for another commentary segment here on today's Activated Mornings program. In studio, we have Dianna, Cain, myself, Roleza Samuel, and Dr. Gerald Thompson. So, Doc, over to you at this time.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad you brought up this topic, and it relates to some of what I've been raising over the past few weeks. Trade is a big issue. And this thing with tariffs and what's happening has really, what we were hearing about globalization has been turned upside down. But what the Prime Minister was really getting at is multifaceted. He is saying to increase production and to use the technologies that are available and other competitive advantages that we might have, both technical and otherwise. And this is so important. And so person should not think that only that St. Vincent people must be only eating more of what they produce. That's critical. That's important. I'll come to that. But that we have to look at trade, and because recently a fair amount of our trade has been with the United States, 5% of our goods go to the United States. That's still considered good. We have to look at the fact that St. Vincent is still a leader in the Caribbean when it comes to food production, along with Dominica, right? And that the other islands are looking at the same thing. They're thinking about how can they, but some of them, they don't have what we call the water. They don't have all the sunlight. They don't have the soil. Roleza, I don't know if you realize we have a very rare soil in St. Vincent called Moloch andesol. It's a rare, highly fertile volcanic soil. And when I was growing up, I was told if you plant a Vincentian, they will grow. We were talking about Skype earlier on and what happened in the days. Well, Dianna, you would not have heard that. But that was a mantra in those. If you plant a Vincentian, Joshua may call in and say he heard it too. The thing is that our soil is very fertile, but it binds the minerals and other things tightly. So you have to do certain other things to release it. And that's why arrowroot grows well here. That's why other things grow well here. But do you know that there's some places in the world where they have to augment their soil, put in pesticides in it, all kind of different things, that a lot of the nutrients, their studies have shown in certain countries, the amount of nutrients in soil has dropped by almost 75%. And so the fruits you produce, the produce you produce, they don't have the same nutritional value. To some extent, we still have that. And so St. Vincent can market itself as not only being good, sweet, lovely produce, but another thing. You mentioned dasheen. Dasheen is one of the latest additions to what's called being a superfood. It has this high soluble fiber content, a lot of polyphenols. And those polyphenols, all of them, wherever they come from, are always great in relation to cancer. But the fiber The soluble fiber, when you eat it, it goes into your stomach, folks. And remember, I spoke about this the other way, Anita called in and so forth. It's so profound in terms of its impact on diabetes and so. And over the years, we've been reducing our food, our consumption of these local foods, as you said. And the subliminal messages in the marketing, we've been going to foreign foods because they have added things to them, added more sugar, added more this, added more that to make it taste better. And we all love them. We have to re-examine our love affair with those kind of foreign foods and rekindle a love affair with the local foods, primarily because it is healthier. And we have to prevent the explosion of diabetes, hypertension, and cancer. But what I think the primary was getting at is we could also market that to Barbados, to Trinidad, to other countries, that not only is our food product good, but our produce is not only healthy, but is great for certain diseases. Let me tell you, we import a ton of stuff that has certain pesticides. We've now discovered they're having certain estrogen-like compounds. Estrogen-like compounds. What do? They promote obesity. They actually make a lot of our people start to put on weight. And also, it's not just the cancer. They promote obesity and diabetes. And that's why we've seen this explosion of diabetes in the Caribbean. We don't realize the foods we eat and so forth contain some of these compounds that basically have a receptor, have something on there that looks a bit like estrogen, and they bind to these receptors in our body. And so I'm getting a bit too technical, but the point is that we can market a lot of our food, not all, but a lot of our foods. Do you know arrowroot has some of the best fiber, soluble fiber? And so that's also happening there. They're building the starch factory out there. Soufriere stopped it. And somebody may ask, why wasn't it finished building? Well, Soufriere stopped it for a while.
They're building a starch factory?
They're building a starch factory out in the Orange Hill area.
Starch or arrowroot?
It is a multifaceted factory that's not only going to be processing arrowroot, but can process other starches as well. And the technology, unlike the old technology which was designed just for arrowroot, it's been designed to do multiple types of starches and fibers and things like that. I'm really happy about that. But more so, I got to end with this in terms of being able to export. You know, before you had an Aga International Airport, you couldn't even dream of exporting produce by plane. You know what I mean? Because it had to go here, there, everywhere, you know, and lose, you know, a lot of its value. And so because of the length of time, the potential is there. And then this port in Kingstown, as what, and you smile because I mentioned it.
No, because I know that you find a way to tie everything in.
No, but you see, the way the port was designed wasn't just to have a monstrosity and say, you get port.
And block out the view.
Yeah, and block out the view. It essentially is going to reduce the cost of imports. Yeah, we want export, and it's going to help with exports too, but it's going to reduce the cost of imports because produce, we now have to look for other, you hear Prime Minister say, we're looking to Brazil for this sauce. We look into other countries with this sauce. But those things can't come here unless there's shipping routes and a port that could take those big ships. We can be a transshipment point to the other islands. You understand? And if you don't have the port, it means that it goes back up to Miami. And from Miami, you pay 10%, and then it comes back down again, and our prices have gone through the roof. You know? So I just wanted to mention this, that the Prime Minister is talking a multifaceted process of not just eating the stuff we grow. Yes, we have to do that, but exporting the stuff that we have grown in excess, deliberately in excess, because we can. We can grow it. We have the ability to grow it. We have the capacity to grow it. and we are going to grow it. So we now need to trade and export, bring in foreign exchange. And in addition, we're going to help market it by not saying Vincentian product is good, but also adding the Vincentian product can help promote your health. Look at it. And that's why Vincentian products are better. Maybe give us a little extra price on top of this, maybe buy a little bit more and so on it.
Yeah, well, you looked at it from an export stance, and that's
both,
all. That's
both.
all fair.
I put it in addition to the import, the export stand as well, and that's why I'm putting that.
Well, for me, I was more look at it in the context of local consumption, in terms of us being a little bit more creative with our dishes. I remember when we were told that KFC was going to start having breadfruit chips. I think a lot of us were excited about hearing that, but that wasn't sustained. And, this is what it is for me, is that if we expose our children from very young to what it is that we grow locally, what it is that we prepare, what we can do in creative ways, then maybe it helps to change their taste buds in a sort of a sense, so that they don't have or feel the need to, or think that, if you have to support local, if you eat locally, then you're quote unquote in the category of poor, or you can't afford, because that is also one of the things that many persons
poor food.
Look at when you go to, if you
hog food, whatever.
If you go to the supermarket and you're able to pick up, these brands that you see advertised on TV, then somehow, quote unquote, you've kind of made it, as opposed to buying the local option or the local substitute. So that is also another thing. But I just think that we need to be a bit more creative and again expose our children to it early.
But Roleza, I still want to come back on that.
All right, so we have a call. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm very interested to hear all this. I don't know. Well, of course, the doctor, remember going back in the 70s when Mr. Mitchell banned a lot of imported produce coming into the nation. Mind you, forget it in factory, but most of the, like English potatoes, yams, whatever, all of the things were banned. And it made people wake up in those days and say, well, what can I do? I might have to make a pie or something. What am I going to put in it? And it made a lot of people wake up and think about the local things that we had available at that time to utilize. Something, for example, like Christophe. I'm sure you might remember that could make a beautiful apple pie because it's basically water, milk, leaf, Christophine. There's nothing no taste there. You could adopt the taste of whatever. So we were very much into inventing in those days. And Edo chips were very popular because you couldn't get potato chips. And people resigned themselves at that stage to what it was. However, I think then the change development began to take place, and then these things were brought back in again. And we have lost the able to utilize what we have. And we need to get back to the basics of telling kids in school when they're doing home economics or whatever it is, use what is available. We don't get some of the products all year round. Yes, we can grow them, but they don't let them bloom, blossom, or fruit at all at the right time. And then, if the doc might remember that many years ago, we used to send vegetables down to Trinidad. And 63,000 pounds from North Leeward used to go down every week. I'm talking history here. Yeah, we've moved on. But to what event? What goes around comes around. So we have to now look at if there is disturbances elsewhere in the world where our supplies are going to be limited. We must now begin to train people to go back to basics. What have we got to use? Breadfruit flour or almond flour or whatever. And people we tend to scorn them. Oh, well, I can do better with that, blah, 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 blah. But we have to be able to go back to the basics. And if, God forbid, there is any further turmoil in the world and we're going to be cut off to some reason of many of the products that we're familiar with, we have to learn how to use them. So thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're very welcome. All right. Thank you.
Very nice.
All right. So we've touched on that. But as the caller was speaking and she was making a point of, okay, so we have another call. Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to Doc and his angel on Monday morning. Yes, you mentioned that song this morning. I was fortunate. Believe you me, I was fortunate. I was never in that position where people was asking to send this and send that.
Lucky you.
Very much so. See, I came from 5 boys in Camden Park, and and my mother's sibling was the last one to leave to go abroad. Our mother, two brothers went abroad, and my third brother, he was working at SPV. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to answer to him to send me this and send me that. So I never experienced that really, to be honest with you. Okay. All I give it back is voluntary. But went to dock and the port for export. I personally experienced that because in New York, there's a Grenadian store, vegetable store in New York called Labby Market. I can say owned by Vincentian. The boy, Mr. Fox, who carried 2 names, he will know about it, and mostly all Vincentian. And he and I was working on the same job before while that shop was open, but now he works there full time now. And he said to me, Jeff, I normally get stuff from St. Vincent, but I can't get enough because the airlift from Honnesville is not enough.
Maryjet.
He said the plane cannot bring Maryjet. A small plane has to go to Trinidad and this and that. He said we can't get enough. We definitely need the vegetables of St. Vincent, but we can't get it. Can't get it. So this is where the port will come in handy for that. And in terms of airport, as you know, I was involved with raising funds for AIA. I spent a lot of time raising funds. LaGuardia Airport, when former president came to New York, Joe Biden, and he says LaGuardia looked like a third world airport. So the Obama administration put billions into LaGuardia, and I was one of the benefactors. I worked there for almost a year. So when you talk about expansion, started small and growing, all airports, JFK too. Same thing going on right now, JFK. So, and that is why the PM did AIA. It's a big property. He always said there are room for expansion, and it will happen. So the vision is there. I've been saying to take care of that vision, work towards that vision. Okay? Yeah. That's my take, but I was working enough to send that. No, I wouldn't want that. All right.
You better careful it in start now. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Later. All right. So it's just 2 things that I want to speak on this as we sort of end the segment. I'm not sure if Doc or Dianna have anything extra to say that. You do?
You finish it.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I have to question is our imports bill also high because of our tourism, the advancements that we've made in tourism. And you know that you have persons coming from overseas with their international taste. And is it a case where do they actually want to eat our local things? Do we actually expose them to it? Or is it a case where we are more catering to their international taste as opposed to having them experience our local cuisine? Now, I know that many restaurants do offer local dishes, etc., but we also have to consider that because our tourism has improved over the years, our import bill is also going to be high. Another thing as well with this whole topic of buying local and producing locally and eating locally, we also have to recognize the cost of production for items here in SVG is also relatively high, right? Where it is that somebody might produce, let's say, a packet of chips or whatever the case might be. Packaging might be a problem in terms of getting the attractive packaging, as you would see from products that are coming out of maybe Trinidad and Tobago or maybe out of Guyana. So packaging is one aspect, but also products that are produced locally also tend to be a bit more expensive. And if we generally do have to come down to it, a consumer, if they're in the supermarket and they see a locally made product and a product that comes from overseas, because of your finances, you are possibly going to choose the product that comes from overseas because it's cheaper than the locally produced item. So one of the other things that we do have to look at, is there a way to encourage regarding the cost of production for it to be lowered so that we do have persons consuming more things locally? Do we need to have maybe like the like a shelf or shelves within the supermarkets that just have locally made items, have all of them stacked in one place. So maybe that the first option for persons when they go to the supermarket is possibly to go to these locally made items, as opposed to maybe all of them being mixed together in a sense where you have both the local and the imported, because not everybody reads labels. Sometimes you just pick up the one that is cheapest, so it is an extensive topic, and but I would advocate always for us to buy and support local, to eat locally. But I do know that when it comes down to finances, it's not always that easy for the regular person.
And choice is a report. You can't impose things and so forth.
Correct.
But it comes down to what I've been saying, the reason why you do it. I'm saying that Pepsi and Coca-Cola pump billions that will override a program like this once every 3 months. People are being bombarded on their social media and so forth otherwise, and it has subliminal messages. So the marketing aspect has to be very strategic and very specific in terms of how you do it. And some will do well and some will not do well. That's the nature of the game. But I still want to put over that a lot is at stake. Even though as tourism has grown, as you rightly said, you can't force a visitor to come and get the buljo. But guess what? Many of them will. But the big issue is also going to be volume, because remember, the buljo is local, it's a local dish, but is it that saltfish is coming from where? Locally, or it's being imported? and the breadfruit and the banana may well be local. So a lot of work has to be done like this, and it's going to take some time. But everything comes down to volume. When you have the volume, you're able to do it things. And that's why the premise is produce more, use technology and so forth. By getting more, we're then going to see the opportunities open up for greater trade. Because here what? The last thing I'm going to say. If you export stuff, people say, oh God, they export all the food. They export all the beef and not leave none for we. And at the same time, if you keep everything here, you say, what happened to GDP? Basically, there is no export. Why aren't we exporting something? So you got to produce enough to supply and satisfy that local market, as well as for export at the same time. That's why this year we hit in 4.9% GDP, right? Which is the second highest in the Caribbean, Roleza. You know, second highest in the Caribbean. That's damn good.
I'm not surprised that you brought that.
That's damn good. I bring it up. Well, maybe we should ignore things like that.
No,
Guyana has 10% GDP. Let's ignore that. We focus on simple things. But I'm bringing that up because I think it's important for people to understand the importance of trade and exports. That 4.9 GDP is made. It's not just exports alone. It's construction, services, and so. Thank you.
All righty. And with that, we are heading out of this segment. Any final things, Dianna? No? All right. We are heading out of this segment at this time.